everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and here at this channel we talk all about mental health, personal development, and understanding our own psychology. And today we're going to be talking about something that we can be doing to significantly increase the amount of happiness and fulfillment we experience in our life. And it has a lot to do with self-honesty and facing our true feelings. I think the tricky thing with this topic is that for most of us, we usually feel that we are honest with ourselves, but I have found that, at least in my own case, this is not always true. In fact, this is something that I used to greatly struggle with in the past. But unfortunately, this can lead to a lot of negative consequences, even when we don't have an awareness that it is happening. In some cases, however, we may do this intentionally. We may feel that it's noble in some way to hide from the truth because we think we're going to gain something from it, or someone else will gain something from it. Or sometimes we just subconsciously feel that if we hide from our problems or our feelings long enough, that they will eventually magically disappear. We can feel that being honest with ourselves goes hand in hand with experiencing pain or feeling vulnerable. And I'm not saying that we are constantly living in this big bubble of denial, but I do think that we very frequently fail to acknowledge and accept our truth. And of course, it's human nature to want to protect ourselves. And I think in many cases, that's what we are attempting to do, because we think that if we don't experience these feelings or admit these feelings, we never really have to deal with them and we don't have to face any consequences. I think this really has become a bigger issue than it ever was in the past, because we are now in the age of social media and we have started to believe that we always have to be playing some kind of a role because other people can see into our lives and they have judgments. So we feel that we have to be a certain way. I think we've all kind of accepted this narrative that we have to appear to be perfect all the time. And even though deep down we know that this is not possible, we still try to edit our lives, both for other people and for ourselves. So maybe we only post pictures where all of our children appear to be exuberantly happy, or we only post pictures where we look like we are excited and fulfilled by our job. So in a sense, we are always bending the truth because we are consistently only showing one side of the story. And what can happen is, with time, this mentality can start to cross over into our real life. We try to convince ourselves that we fit into this mold, and we want to fit into this mold because we have decided that this is the best way to be and the way that other people expect us to be. But the problem comes when this expectation does not match our reality. When, let's say, our relationship is failing, or when in truth we actually hate our job, or when day after day we are living in guilt and regret over past mistakes or decisions that we aren't that happy about. These are situations and feelings that we did not plan for. They weren't part of the equation that we designed. So what do we do when there are real issues that we need to face, or real emotions that we need to feel? Well, in a perfect world, we would address these things head on so we could start to heal and move past them. But more often than not, we fail to do this. We instead try to just put on a happy face, or try to distract ourselves for long enough that we forget the issues are even there. We look to our favorite forms of escapism to try to dull these emotions or these experiences, or better yet, we think, to try to completely conceal them from ourselves. But why do we do this? Well, for one, we automatically assume that there's going to be a specific direct consequence of doing so, that the scenario that we fear the most is definitely going to come to pass, that it is the only possible outcome if we let these emotions come to the surface. So for example, we think if we admit to ourselves that we aren't happy in our relationship, let's say, we think that that automatically means that we're going to have to completely end that relationship. Or we think that if we admit to ourselves that we're not that happy with our career choice, that it means that our lives have been completely wasted and we're going to have to start from scratch, and we don't think that we have the time and energy to do that. But the truth is that none of these things have to happen unless we ourselves decide that these are the best courses of action, which we may or may not decide to do. We forget that it's our choice, our decision, always. And what we can gain by this self-honesty and admitting unhappiness to ourselves is the ability to get real and to start to figure out how we can become more happy and how we can start to solve these problems. It takes way more effort and energy to constantly run from problems and hide from problems than it does to actually solve them. I think we really lack confidence in our ability to improve things and to fix things. But in reality, this is something we have done naturally throughout our whole life. Because we don't run from everything, we just run from certain things. We pick and choose. And in some cases, we hand select the things that we don't think we're going to be able to handle, or the things that we assume are going to fill us with anxiety. And sometimes they are chosen for us. Sometimes we do have sore spots and we do have triggers that really are things that we would like to avoid. But unfortunately, hiding from these things or ignoring these things really does nothing to heal them. The only way to solve problems is to first admit that they're there in the first place. And if we fail to do this, the happiest that we will ever feel in our life is the happiness that we are feeling right now. And if that is not as happy as you'd like to feel, it means that some changes do need to be made. But we can't let ourselves jump to conclusions about what that means, because again, we are the ones that hold the power. We are the ones that get to decide for ourselves what we want the changes to be. There are many different changes that we can make, and sometimes change just comes from within. Change can mean something as simple as switching our mindset, or adopting a new habit, or committing to spending more time in nature or with friends, or doing more things that we enjoy. And of course, we can also decide that the change is something that needs to be a lot bigger. But we can't make these decisions and we can't move forward if we are always running from ourselves. And also remember that we don't have to share any of these revelations unless we choose to. So if you're afraid that the world will all of a sudden know all your problems, please don't be, because you can guard that information. You are the only thinker in your own head, and you have the choice whether or not you want to share these thoughts. And the amazing thing is that once we start acknowledging these thoughts and feelings, we can start peeling beneath the layers and figuring out what is really going on for us. And from there, we can stop hiding and start actually creating the life that we want. Not the life that other people think that we should have, but the life that we know deep down is truly best for us. And I want you to know that it is okay to be unhappy with some aspects of your life, because as long as you acknowledge that to yourself, you can change one of two things. You can change how you are feeling and thinking internally, and you can also sometimes also change things in the external world. So in other words, we can either change our perspective and our attitude and the way we think and feel about the situation, or we can change the situation in and of itself. And either or both can be completely empowering, because we are actually doing something. We are taking control of the situation and taking control of our life. And so much of the anxiety that we experience in our life has to do with the fact that we don't believe that we are in control, that we can do something about our situations. But that never is really true. There's always something that we can do to improve how we are feeling. And in some cases, internal action is as effective as external action. So my invitation for you today is to sit down and ask yourself if you've truly been practicing self-honesty, and if there are any issues in your life that you really do need to address that maybe you have been hiding from. And if so, and if you can find the courage to get real with yourself, you're going to find that your life starts to move in the direction that your heart really wants it to go in. And I wish you so much healing and so much happiness in this process. So as always, I truly hope you found today's video to be insightful and helpful. If you did, please like it, share it, and definitely become a subscriber if you aren't one already. I would love it if you stayed connected. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I hope the rest of your day is extraordinary.